Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ether Force Radio. We're here with Caleb and Joe Dubs, and we're taking a deep dive right down the rabbit hole. We're just jumping right in, skinny dipping. We've been in free fall for about an hour. It's awful deep down here. This broadcast is not going to be for everybody. And if you love science and you love the truth, well, you better think again because you might not be able to handle all this. But hey, we're just a bunch of guys talking, asking questions. That's all we're doing, so don't hold it against us. We won't hold it against you. We love the truth, and we're just having a great time. Welcome to Ether Force Radio. Caleb,
How's it
what's
going?
up, bro? I'm good.
Yeah,
Hey,
you look good, buddy.
Thanks, Caleb. Could you just tell people like who you are? Because people keep asking me. We've been sharing a couple of your articles on Ether Force on the site, and it was asking, who is Caleb Thomas? They all want to know who you are. Who is Caleb Thomas, besides a brilliant researcher?
Well, I guess I'm just a guy that likes to question everything. I don't like to just take things in without a filter and just believe things that people tell me. I like to research. So I guess you could just say I'm a alternative researcher. I'm definitely a scientist because I love experimenting with energy. Hey, hippo. Hey.
Bring him into the picture, man. Maybe show him. Let's see him. I'm sure he's cute as hell. Oh, he's a big one.
Come say hi. Who's here?
Yeah.
Somebody just rang the doorbell. That's why he's going crazy. Hey, let me let him up there.
Oh, man.
Hey, Joe, you're also in Denver with Caleb, right?
Yeah, I live right down the street. It's kind of crazy how I just ended up here. I didn't know he lived right down the street. Found an apartment down here, so.
But you guys knew each other before?
Yeah, we've been friends on Facebook for over a year, I would say. Right, Caleb?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. We've been friends on Facebook. I started following all of Joe's work because he's a brilliant artist. I'm sure a lot of you've seen his geometric connections page.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I started finding pieces of the puzzle in Joe's work. Like, he led me to some huge epiphanies. So I started contacting Joe, and then all of a sudden I found out that he was in Boulder. And then I found out later on, we tried to hook up a few times, but never did. And then he just all of a sudden moved, and I called him up one day and said I was going to go over to Chipotle, and he said, oh, there's one right by my house. Sure enough, we both live in the same city now.
Man, how it just happens like that. But.
It's no coincidence. Hey, Joe, since Caleb is not too keen on talking about himself, can you tell us what kind of guy Caleb Thomas is?
Well, like you said, he's not afraid of asking questions, and a lot of people are afraid of asking these certain questions because they're afraid of what other people will think of them, because these questions are so ingrained in our society. They're some questions you're not allowed to ask, like whether the earth goes round. That's already known. It's a sacrosanct truth. So you're not allowed to just question these hard questions. And he's a brilliant researcher and writer. I love his articles. So I look forward to seeing the stuff that he brings out.
Absolutely. So, Caleb, what do you think of Joe?
Oh, man, Joe's great, man. Every time you should see, when we get down and we start talking about any topic, we can sit there. Joe already is pretty familiar with half of the things I'm into anyways already. So
yep.
Our conversations just really, they go down the rabbit hole. I love asking him his perspective because he brings a whole new angle to things, pun intended, because he's really into geometry. And,
right.
Oh man, he just has a geometric mind. I mean, don't play pool against the guy, I'll tell you that.
Well, I'm just building off of the work of like Scott Onstadt, Marty Leeds, Randall Carlson, all these brilliant minds, and I've made a few little discoveries, but most of my illustrations are centered around these great minds and the geometric um, things that they brought to the table. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Well, yeah, Joe's got correlations between, uh, all the harmonics of the universe. Is a good way to put it. There, everything has a harmony. Everything has a relationship between size, circumference, distance, and all these different things. We're starting to correlate um, so many different things together and kind of mesh um, all the geometries, all the music theory, stuff like that. So Joe's really good to talk to about, and he's already keen on a lot of the other stuff that we talk about a lot, like me and him get into the health stuff all the time, the vaccine crap, the all the different GMO.
We're on the same lines, me and you. I mean, all of us. It's amazing how many similarities we have between us.
Yep.
Yeah, all these cosmic creations that I make, I didn't even intend to like start out on making these things. It just kind of happened, and I'm like, oh, I'll chart out this idea that I have in my head. And then the next thing I know, I have like over 100 of these things.
Yeah.
And it's just a result of getting laid off from work and just sitting home at the computer reading different things and connecting the dots. It's basically my illustrations and ideas and other guys' ideas kind of spit in the face of evolution and this idea of everything's materialistic and there's no ether. It's all reductionistic science. Everything has happened by chance. And if there's a correlation that links these things, well, that's just a cosmic coincidence.
Right.
So yeah, that's where I've been at.
Absolutely. It's the mechanistic versus the living. That's really where we're at right now. And we're firmly in the camp of the living.
For sure.
That's really what it comes down to. And that's beautiful. There's a real global awakening happening right now, and you see it happening. There's a whole army of people now that are starting to understand, hey, we're not going to poison our children by taking these shots. We're not going to do that. They're putting their foot down. This is their children after all. So we all know that, of course, but what you guys are doing is you're going really deep into the science. You guys are like the tip of the spear. And that's why I respect you guys so much, because you've introduced me to perspectives that I would never have had the courage to question myself or even consider. And Caleb, I got to say, your work with the Geocosmos has been absolutely amazing. And I don't want to overwhelm people with it, because there's only one Caleb Thomas, there's only one Joe Dubs out there. But if I could just ask you some questions, and that would be great, because this is all about asking questions, right?
Of course. Yeah.
All right, there's a list here. We published this article like a year and a half ago. It's called "Isn't It Strange That?" and it was written by a guy named William Mostel on April 1968. And it's a list of 40 questions, pretty mind-bending questions. Number 1. Every known form of energy decays, even light, namely with the square of the distance, and yet light rays of stars are still reaching us from billions and billions of light years away, period.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. So when you start asking these questions, you have to consider that the model. See, I started out, when I started questioning these things, you have to go out on a limb and kind of erase everything that you've already, your preconceived notions, and you have to kind of start fresh. Is the best perspective for me. So I started out just wondering if what they told us was the truth, and I come across all these different theories all the time. And in order to explain that question rationally, I explored so many different theories, and every theory has something to offer. But for that question to be answered, I had to dig deep to try to figure out, the nature of light itself, what is really going on with light. Um, I think it's pretty obvious if you look at the mainstream model, it doesn't work. You know, just for a little bit of background, I mean, we started questioning these things initially because we tried as hard as we could to disprove some theories that seemed completely unscientific. We thought we could just write these off, like, yeah, right, like the Earth is flat. There's a lot of flat earthers out there that say that the Earth is flat. The concave Earth, if you start at first, you just, like you said, you just have a reaction to it, like a, yeah, right, there's no way my entire model, the way that I think, is wrong. So let me show you how this is wrong. And that's how I started. I was like, let me show you how the Earth isn't concave, and let me show you how the Earth isn't flat. And on that search, you start to come to these questions. You start to think, well, okay, there's really something to this. I really can't disprove some of this stuff. And furthermore, some of the interesting aspects to those theories actually make more sense. So light decaying. It's physically impossible for starlight to be 93 million miles away like the sun, and for the rays to react the way that they do with our atmosphere. Unless you make up math, and unless you insert your own solutions to the problem, which isn't okay with me. When I started from scratch and started to build upon the theory of how light travels, I got really interested in the work of Walter Russell, because it's, for a model of what light really is, it was the closest thing I could find to a rational scientific explanation. And to be honest, I can't see. I've looked at every angle. There's a lot of people out there that'll say, well, I don't know if you've looked into mathematical physics. And yes, for all the people that are wondering, yes, I've gotten into mathematical physics. I've done the math. The math doesn't work. If you do the math, you'll find the same things that I have. And I don't know, probably 90% of the people out there that I've talked to just believe in the almighty E equals MC squared. They've never actually done the equations to the end. And I did. I went through all the math in, all the different theories, the relativities, the special relativity, the Big Bang, all of it. And the models just don't work. So then, to answer these questions, I decided you can't come to a rational explanation of how light gets here from stars that far away, with their math. So if their math and their theories don't work, then how does it work? So I had to figure out that I don't think, just to kind of jump to my conclusion, I don't think that the stars are that far away. I don't think the light travels. I don't think, for instance, let me give you a little taste, not to get too into the math, but they say that light from the sun takes 8 minutes to get here. So if all of a sudden the sun disappeared, all of a sudden it would take 8 minutes for us to see that the light is gone. And that's based on, their assumption of size, their assumption of distance, and their theory of the way that light bends with relative to gravity, which all three of those things I can thoroughly go into at some point and show you how it doesn't work. But just for the sake of the video, if gravity is instantaneous because your weight changes depending on where you are, instantaneous, then and gravity is therefore instantaneous and faster than the speed of light, which screws their whole theory up. Um, if the sun all of a sudden disappeared, then every single human's weight would instantly change on Earth, but it would take 8 minutes for the gravity. I mean, 8 minutes for the light to get here. It doesn't work. And there's so many different ways I can examples of that I can give you, but that's a good one. Weight is instantaneous, and in my opinion, so is light. There's many different forms of light. There's laser, which is a concentrated form of radiation, and which is a man-made light. There's not found in nature anywhere, and it has its own properties, separate from incandescence and separate from fluorescence, and then the sun's light rays are a completely different form of light. So, and then if you get into Walter Russell, he'll tell you that all of the above is all a simulation of light, that the real light resides in the fulcrum, in stillness. But that's probably a whole nother discussion. But yeah, long story short, I don't believe light. I mean, if light does decay, as they say that in their own theory, they say light decays, and there's a radiant factor that they present. Within their own theory, it cannot work. So, how many ways can we debunk it? I mean, let me count the ways. But anyways, I don't know, Joe, what do you think?
Well, yeah, to get into like the psychology behind all this, for me, and I'm going on a different tangent here, but once you kind of open your eyes and you see that how the system is set up with, you could look at health, you could look at science, everything is ass backwards. All the mainstream theories seem to be wrong, according for me at least. So you're able to open your eyes and look at new ideas and these new theories in a brand new light, like you're doing. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I don't think it's evidence that changed people's minds. It takes more than that. You can show all the evidence in the world that cannabis causes apoptosis in cancer cells, or this and that, and so it seems like it doesn't. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but I think it somewhat relates, just because these ideas could be in plain sight for all to see, yet since we've all been so hypnotized to see the world one way, you just can't see the things in plain sight, it seems like. So I just wanted to throw that in there. As far as light, I haven't gotten into it that much. I appreciate your thoughts on it, and I'm taking some notes here. So
I just want to say, Joe, that's a great point. I mean, I call it the 180-degree rule, and it applies for everything. I first woke up to the health, then the politics, then the history, and then I was so overwhelmed that I had to become spiritual. I didn't want. I was an atheist, but I had no choice. Because you see, everything is completely. It's not just wrong. It's not just a little wrong. It's not just 50% wrong, or not even 99.9% wrong. It has to be a total and complete perversion of the truth. Complete. Like, if you were just an evil dude and you wanted to profit or make money, you wouldn't go that far. You wouldn't have to. It's a waste of effort. So there's some kind of intellect behind all this that must turn everything completely upside on its head. And we won't get into who or what that is right now, totally out of scope. But the 180-degree rule, I think, is kind of a guiding light for me. It's one of the only things that keeps proving itself over and over again.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Caleb, that was absolutely brilliant, man. Can I ask you about light? I mean, you've done a lot of research about light, and the whole question about optics is, we still don't know anything about it, really. I mean, if you listen to Thomas Joseph Brown, he talks about Goethe and his conflicting color theory with Newton. That's a whole other topic in and of itself. But I mean, what have you discovered about light? I mean, do you believe it doesn't travel, like Walter Russell says?
Well, okay, that's a pretty deep question, but as far as my personal beliefs, well, I mean, I guess if you want to know what the question really is, a lot of people that aren't familiar with Walter Russell's theories, he equates light to it repeats itself from, he calls it a wave field to a wave field. So it's like a mirror, a whole bunch of two-way mirrors. The light is repeating itself, and I like to imagine it as a whole bunch of little light bulbs. The leading edge of the light would just be like a whole set of light bulbs flashing. In Russellian Science, they call it a flash line sequence. So if I wave my hand, similar to the same way that this computer screen works, there's a whole bunch of little pixels, and each one of those little pixels is a light. There's actually no motion taking place on the computer screen or on the TV or in a hologram. There's actually just little pieces of little points of a grid that light up and then turn off, change colors, whatever it may be. So if light isn't actually traveling, and there's in Walter Russell's theories, he's got spherical, like a cube is basically the whole model is a bunch of cubes and spheres within the cubes. The sacred geometry is like the scaffolding for the form, so it like holds the forms together. So there's concave and convex lenses in a circle. There's one convex and one concave on either side, and up and down, side to side. So the way light would travel, and see, this theory makes so much sense to me, especially with what I'm learning about the human eye and how it's a lens, and how we perceive matter itself, and all the sacred geometry that everything is built upon. You can find all the sacred geometry forms inside of this cube grid. This cube grid houses the icosa, the stellated icosa, the dodeca, the cube octa, all the different geometries, lower and lower and lower, until you get to the tetra, which is just, half a cube. And then, so all these geometries are the forms for the Platonic solid, right? They form all the different air, fire, water, all the different elements that we have. So if light is traveling through, or I'm sorry, if light is repeating itself from wave field to wave field, it would explain how light is bending, because every time it goes through a new cube, a new lens, the angle changes slightly. So here we get the phi spiral. And I don't know if you guys checked out Max's his new little geometry that he posted. He shows why phi is so prevalent and how it relates to the cubic wave field, how it fits into the cube. So we see phi everywhere in nature. The phi spiral is the way that I perceive light to, you can't say that light travels straight or light travels curved, because that would be bad grammar. So if we're using the rational scientific method, if we're using our quadrivium and our trivium, then we know we would have to change that sentence because the grammar's wrong, we'd have to say light travels curvilinearly, right? Well, I don't think there's any such thing as this phi spiral isn't actually traveling anywhere. All it is it's the relationship between the cube, the sphere, and the lens that repeats itself from wave field to wave field. So what I'm really interested in is the relationship between our eyes and how matter comes into existence for us. And I think that there's a really huge direct relationship between how we perceive our reality and the human eye, like projecting images onto a plane, kind of like a cubic wave field is the best way he describes it. And I'm doing my best to translate all the terms rationally so that it's easily understood. Because a lot of Walter Russell's work is hard for a lot of people to understand because he uses really vague terms. Like wave field, it's hard to imagine what that could be because a wave is what something does, not what something is. Like water can wave, your hand can wave, but what is the wave? What is it's kind of irrational to me to think about a wave. I would like to know what is waving. So then Walter Russell gets into how the wave is actually it's a cosmic light cinema is what he says. So it's I'm trying to get into projective geometry to relate this because I know there's a direct relationship between how we perceive light, the projective geometry, and I like to equate the eye as the projector, kind of like Descartes talked about. The pineal gland there's a direct relationship between our reality. It may not be as external as we think it is. So the best explanation that I keep finding is from Walter Russell. However, I am working my best to understand it fully because there's a lot of people that when they go down the Walter Russell rabbit hole, they say that it takes them 20 years to understand some of his material. And I think a lot of that is due to some of the contradictions from the old work and some of the new work, and the terminology gets to people a lot. So I'm weeding my way through it all, kind of trying to translate it into a easier understanding. And yeah, there's a lot to go into there. I could probably talk about Walter Russell's work for forever. There's a lot of material there. So, but
Yeah, I mean, you started off in the Russell School, and I got to say, out of all the people that are into Russell, I mean, there's some amazing researchers on Russell. But what I love about your work is how you really make it tangible. Your interpretation of Russell, I just get it.
yeah.
So it's like you're pretty much right now my go-to guy for anything Russell related. So
Yeah, there's probably a whole. I should probably do a whole series just on that right there because I've got a whole book here of different stuff that I've translated, so it's a little easier to understand because there's a lot of material in there and a lot of terminology that needs to be defined. One of my I use the trivium a lot, the quadrivium. I love the filters to weed through different information. And, I think in order for people to really understand things rationally, they need a definition of key terms. You have to define things because there's such a wide range of broad definitions for the same terms all over the place. Whether you ask, you ask a string theorist, if you ask a quantum physicist, if you ask Russellian, or people in the Ed Leedskalnin family, all the different modalities of thought have in themselves different definitions for the same words. So there's always a huge terminology barrier. That's my biggest issue that I've been trying to work through is, hey, let's define these terms rationally so that they can be used universally. You know what I mean? So if we're all on the same page, like if we don't have a definition of light, how can we even discuss it? If one person thinks light is a certain thing and another person thinks light is a completely different thing, when they have a conversation, they're never going to be on the same page. You just have to ask more and more and more questions. When from the get-go, I believe in grammar first. Get the grammar correct, then move on to logic and rhetoric and, the whole thing after that.
Great point. I've heard you say that's the biggest problem in science is they don't have an idea of the same terms they're talking about. So that makes a lot of sense on my end.
Yeah, that's one thing you'll definitely find when you, if you ever go down all the different rabbit holes of theories that are out there. There's so many theories. I mean, I've read just about every single theory that I can get my hands on to try to make sense of things.
How are you making out with tectronics?
Oh, Tetronics. Yeah.
Tectronics, sorry.
What's really weird? I've gotten into it, and I can only handle so much of it before it kind of frustrates me a little bit because of the terminology is one of the big things. The things that it's funny because the things that I have found to be useful in the Tetronics theory, he puts some of the things that he puts in there are very similar to Walter Russell's stuff.
I noticed that too.
Only a few, but for instance, he talks about what is it, equilibrium. But he's got his whole model on the triangle, the equilateral triangle, which there's some really questionable things in there, and until I have some solid evidence for some of my theories, I don't like to come public with a lot of it. But just kind of off the record, I don't really think the Tetronics is worthwhile, to be honest. I think there's a little bit of stuff going on there that is very questionable with the agenda, to say the least. I went through the Tetronics because there were so many people asking me about it. I think it draws a lot of people in with some of the geometries and stuff. But at the same time, I'd have to give people a lot of background of what I've studied for them to understand why I don't like the terminology that he uses, and my different understanding of things like electrons, and I don't think he's gone quite deep enough. If you ask me, I think he really needs the Tetronics guy. I think he really needs some Walter Russell in his life.
Well said.
I knew you were going to say that.
I think it would answer some of the, because for instance, just as for an example, an electron isn't really a thing. It's more like a condition of the cycle of the wave. Here I am saying the wave. There's a lot of things that, in order to explain, you have to use the terminology that people already know. So, in Walter Russell's theory, he's got inert gases. So there's only one force in the universe, force, which I equate to a pressure of electric spiraling gas. Um, and in the different stages of this gas, compressing and um, there's different locked potentials. There's different locked um, points in the wave cycle, and you could call one of those locked points, you could call it an electron. But you'd really be missing the point because there is only electricity. Everything is a condition of electricity. And, I don't really believe in, any of the quantum mechanics when the imperial reductionism where they're trying to find the source of matter inside of matter because it does the source of the matter isn't really in the matter really necessarily. I guess there's a few theories there that we could go down and discuss, but all I can really say is that the current model that they use with electrons doesn't work out on so many different levels. I think you might both be familiar with Dewey B. Larson, and um, there's a couple really compelling cases that I've seen against the nuclear model of the atom itself and against the so-called things like electrons. For instance, Ed Leedskalnin also said that he doesn't believe in electrons. So did Tesla. Um, these the people that talk about electrons and bosons and all the different models that they have, like the tetronics theory, they really are missing the point. They're not going deep enough. They
Yeah.
it may be, I have no idea. It may be that he's worked on he's taken different angles at it, and I do like the way he explains some of the things because it makes more sense than the current model, and that's where his whole argument is that his theories make more sense than the academia models. But at the same time, there are other theories out there that take it to a whole nother level, and those are what I'm into. I like to know the why and how they come into being. Um, so tetronics, meh. I mean, better than the mainstream model, but he's got some. And see, here's what's really suspicious to me. Okay, 20 years he says he's worked on his theory, and he's got amazing, beautiful color pictures and everything. He's done a lot of work, and I really like his work. So he came forward the other day and said that he believes he's the reincarnation of Hermes Trismegistus.
Another one.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was me. Oh, man.
Why is everyone a reincarnation of Thoth all of a sudden?
Yeah. How come there's no one that's a reincarnation of, like, I don't know, the guy down the corner and the barber?
Well, if you ask me, I think it's a really good way to get a lot of the followers in the New Age hooked, because I can tell you from experience, back when in 2009, when I was really into Keylontic science, they used to tell me that Thoth was Metatron, and Metatron is the entity who controls thought forms, and who was the inventor of the sciences that keep us trapped, and all the different technology that de-evolves us, so to speak. And that's a long discussion in itself, but the moral is that there are many New Age doctrines that use Thoth. For instance, John Belo Melchizedek claims to be a reincarnation of Thoth, and I don't know how there could be so many reincarnations of the same soul. there may be an explanation there, but um, my initial feeling that I get is that I've been into the New Age for a really long time, and I don't want to just crap on anybody's beliefs, but just my opinion, the feeling that I get, um, I don't I don't like channeling. I don't like. I get a bad feeling about channeling. It's got a
Okay.
great mask that it puts on to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, the whole talk thing, and it's funny. It was really synchronistic to me because he came out and told people that, and I saw this post about how he said he was Abraham from the Bible, and that he was also tall, and they were all the same person.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was very synchronistic to me because I just finished writing an article about Hermes. Um, I actually wrote it 4 or 5 years ago, and I revisited it for some reason. It's funny how things that we think about will synchronistically appear in other people in other people's art forms and other people's words and stuff like that. But yeah, I was just there's a lot there with the tetraionics thing, but I guess that could be a whole. I started writing an article, and it just as soon as that stuff started happening, I just was like, gotta give this stuff a break a little bit. So I don't want to offend anybody, and I'm not really calling him out, so to speak, because I haven't reviewed all the work. So to give it a fair chance, I would want to go through it more thoroughly. But those are just my initial thoughts, and I will ask him these same questions that I have before I publish anything. I want to get his opinion. I want to bring him into the conversation and see what he has to say. But
It's very big of you, Caleb. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your just no nonsense attitude. Like that's such a rare thing these days, where everyone talks in double speak. You just come out and tell us what you believe in a very diplomatic and congenial way. Thank you. Make a hell of a statesman, a real statesman for science.
it's got to be like that, man. There's too many people that mix their ego in and then their dogma into the science, and science really doesn't have any place for opinions and egos and stuff like that. We explain in science. We explain things rationally when we theorize and we hypothesize. We don't necessarily claim things that we don't know. You know what I mean? It's got to be that way. Otherwise, we get ourselves into this situation that we've been in for the last 100 years, where we really don't know anything at all. I mean, go ask your normal everyday college physicist why something falls to the ground. They have
Oh,
no idea. You know, and all he'll give you is a bunch of opinions based on egotistical. Again, I don't want to piss anybody off or get in anybody's. There are a lot of really good mainstream scientists that I've talked to that are open to alternative sciences, and they're open to their theories being questionable. But for the majority, I mean, when I meet new scientists for the first time and I talk to them about things, almost every single one of them gives me an egotistical reaction to anything that I have to say. You know,
exactly. I mean, you're so diplomatic, and I think everyone in the scene is. We want to hear everyone out, but these guys, they won't even listen to you. They're so sure you're completely wrong and full of just crap, But meanwhile, they can't even explain what gravity is. They can't
yeah,
even tell you how water can come from the ground all the way up to the leaves of trees. So they can't even explain the basic life. I mean, they can't really explain anything, but they're so sure that we're wrong.
yeah. Well, and my friend Jason Verbelli told me one time when I was having a really hard time, um, where I was like, I'm finding all these really amazing new things, and I want to talk to, my professors about some of this stuff, and everybody just gives me the same reaction. Um, he had something beautiful to tell me. He said, you know, these people have built their entire lives on a foundation of, um, you know, their dogma, the thing that they believe. They spent all their money, the last 20 years of their lives, some of them. And if you and here you come, telling them they have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that one of their theories doesn't work, and then all of a sudden, so they were learning lies for the last 20 years, and it's a huge. That's why it's so important for me to take the ego out, because you remove any agenda to be right or wrong, or the duality of the good and the bad, and you just deal with what is instead of what you want things to be, because it suits your decisions in life better. You know, you have to remove all of that if you're going to get anywhere. You have to be open to the fact that just about everything you know could be wrong. It has.
I have a great quote for that by a friend, Jesse Hathcock. He says, tenured professors in positions of authority won't so easily admit that everything they have learned and taught was wrong, even if they realize that the new research disproves their old theories. You know, and this goes back to evidence, not swaying the opinions. You know, and because science seems like it's a religion now. It's not even a methodology. It's a belief system. Right. So
It totally is a religion. I think we all have to
yeah.
It totally is. It is the religion of the world, right? Of the Western world, especially. Science is the religion. It's a cult if you think about it. I mean, what else can you call it, really?
Right.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a great preacher, though, man. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he's got everybody eating right out of his hand. I'll tell
Well,
you.
we don't even need philosophy in science, even though the original name of science is the
Natural philosophy, yeah.
natural philosophy, right? So he says, well, we don't need philosophy anymore. We've pretty much got it all figured out. And that's along with Rupert Sheldrake talks about the science delusion is the belief that we understand the nature of reality only to to put in the small things that we don't understand. Maybe I didn't sum that up too well, but just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, right, nail right on the head. That's
It is. It's a total propaganda war. I mean, that's really what it is. And they always find these new preachers. You know, they throw enough money at them, and they'll find guys willing to get out there and just lie their pants off.
yeah.
And they have a whole machine behind them, and all of academia is behind them. And then it's just a bunch of guys like us getting around talking about this stuff, just asking simple questions.
Right.
And it's like all of a sudden we're the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And to make matters even worse is that we're surrounded by a bunch of dudes that literally want us to believe that they're Jesus, or that they're Moses, or that they're Abraham, or that they're Muhammad, or that they're, it's like, dude, we can't just be a bunch of guys asking questions. Who let the dogs out, man? Who let the sociopaths out?
Here's another good one. Sorry to cut you off. The facts of science are real enough, and so are the techniques that scientists use, and so are the technologies based on them. But the belief system that governs conventional scientific thinking is an act of faith. That's Rupert Sheldrake again. I love his words.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, Joe, I wanted to ask you. I don't think I've ever asked you this. I know it was a long time ago. You were asking me about some of my theories, and I kind of just gave you a video to watch called the thermodynamics one, the second law of thermodynamics video.
Yeah.
Bunk. And I never asked you how. Like, I remember you saying you really liked it, but how did it change your view of science?
Yeah, that video really resonated with me. First of all, the whole idea of thermodynamics, the idea that the universe is this ball of heat and it's just gonna lose its energy. The whole thing just doesn't make any sense to me. And the way this guy explained it made a lot more sense. Let's see. I don't know how to completely answer that question.
Where were you at before you watched it? Were you into the? Did you subscribe to any of those ideas, or did you already have a feeling that some of them were, you know, that they didn't really mesh with things?
Yeah, I think I was in the Nassim Haramein camp back then, and his ideas made a lot more sense too. About the Big Bang, just coming out of nowhere for no reason. Our lives are basically purposeless according to mainstream science.
Yeah.
And I think I'll have to watch that video again, but I remember it really resonated with me, and I liked a lot of what he said. It just clicked. It made a lot of sense. But yeah. Anyway.
Tech, I don't think Tech has seen that video, so I want to I'll try to link it just in case. So
Yeah, if you could link it in the chat, that'd be great. I think I've seen the video.
He talks about the political implications of it, and that really struck a chord because I've studied the history of health, and if you go back to the germ theory, which is a complete fallacy in my opinion, you'll see that Louis Pasteur and other guys, they were good friends with high class, political figures.
Yeah.
And that really affected the science. It's not really about the experiment. It's about who's who, really. And talks about that.
We published an article about the Pasteur hoax and how he basically just was another preacher hired to erase Beauchamp, I believe his name was, who was the guy bringing real living science out, and then Pasteur was basically the disinformation agent. You see that same pattern over and over and over again. It's amazing.
Sure, I agree. Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name either. Beauchamp, Antoine Beauchamp. I don't know, but
we're Americans. We say Beauchamp. But what's amazing is that there's so many great researchers out there outside of the country, but I think we're seeing a lot of amazing researchers inside of America, and you got to give us here inside the belly of the beast some credit, because it's not hard. It's not easy to break out of this matrix when you're inside of it.
Oh yeah, man. Especially, it's like Morpheus says, man. It's like everybody around you is so hopelessly ingrained in the system that they will fight you to protect it, like some kind of an antivirus, software where it's like you get us popping up saying, well, hey, hold on a second, it doesn't all work out the way that they said it does, and they attack you. It's like it's so perfect for them. If you really think about the implications of what they've done here, it's so genius. I mean,
right.
It's kind of like the thing where it takes a genius to kind of see a genius or to know one. And all the people around you think that you're crazy. They don't, because unless they're geniuses themselves, or unless they're at a certain level of understanding, they really think that you're the crazy one, and that everybody else, no one else says the stuff you're saying, so you must be crazy, right?
Good point. It's like if you twist the truth to become sound crazy, no one will believe it, and only the crazy people will believe in the truth. So,
especially if the truth is 180 degrees opposed
right.
to the current thinking. I mean, at that point, how do you break someone out of that? Like, you say, okay, everything you believe is right. Just keep watching Fox News and just take everything they say, reverse it 180 degrees, and then you have the
right.
It's really astonishing. It makes you really question that there has to have been an architect working intergenerationally to corrupt things so perfectly. And it would have to be a single mind, too, because great works of art don't come from a federation of minds. They come from a single mind that's been enlightened and is working hard. So I'm not giving this architect any credit, because it's obvious that he's immortal, like he's been alive longer than humanity itself. It's obvious that he would have had exposure to the original revelation, and it's obvious he's obviously possessed with destroying humanity. So if he has all those advantages, I don't think he's really that brilliant, but I think he's got a lot of time on his hands, He had a lot of original knowledge, and he's just been working steadily. And only in the past, like, 100 years, especially the last 100 years, has it really come together. Amazingly so. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I like that too, because I guess a metaphor for that would be, if there's a master chess player playing a rookie, you couldn't call the master chess player a genius just because he knows the game, knows how to manipulate the pieces. So no, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I like it.
Yeah,
Mike,
I don't like giving that guy too much credit. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off.
yeah, and I don't know, it might not be a guy or a person or a thing. Like in the Vedic traditions, you have different ages, like the Kali Yuga and the Satya Yuga and all these things. So perhaps it's just like a struggle that we're going through in this time that's diluting our consciousness to believe in these asinine things.
Yeah, that would be.
Who
I
knows?
like that. I like that that idea that the age of Aquarius, the whole astrotheology aspect of it, I get into sometimes, where it's like, yeah, this is the age of where the truth will take care of us. All the lies will be unveiled, and stuff like that. I really like that idea as well.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening because, it's only small groups of people that really affect change, that are driven to discover and seek, and then from there it spreads. It's not going to be a mass thing, you know. I really don't think it's going to happen that way, and I don't think it's going to happen all at once. I think a small group has to keep working hard and keep applying pressure, the same way the bad guys nickeled and dimed their way over like 1,000 years to win. Like, we have to kind of keep fighting for every inch and keep getting things through, and eventually there'll come a point where the lies will collapse under their own weight.
Yep. So what was the second question on that list? I was trying to remember.
Well,
We're not on this question.
you already answered it, actually, but
Okay.
I'll ask it. Everything is subject to lines of force, which are curved and is well known, but only light supposedly travels in a perfectly straight line. Question mark. Does anything travel in a straight line?
Yeah, I really like. A lot of people haven't seen the Wild Heretic article called "Bendy Light." I really like that. And on my Facebook, I also kind of go into detail about the correlation between Russellian science and how it works. Like I was kind of talking about before, about there's many experiments that you can do um, to try to figure out how you can explain them is a completely different thing, because there's a whole unspoken thing in surveying where they actually know that light bends up. Like they actually have a radiant factor and they don't know why. They don't really talk about it. They just know that if they're looking at their surveying equipment at a certain distance, that it'll actually be off a little bit. They say it'll be the actual level will be off a little bit due to the fact that light is bending upward. So their target is always, depending on how far away, 3, 6, 9 inches higher than the target that they aim at. There's so many different experiments about how there's bendy light. We have to be careful when we call light traveling curved, because we have to remember, we have to say curvilinear is the correct term. And not only that, but I don't think light is traveling. But anyways, what do you think about that, Joe? Have you looked into that?
No, not too much. And this kind of goes back to the concave idea, right? I mean, this all stems back to that. Is that right?
Yeah, so some of these 40 questions are asking questions that a lot of the people who subscribe to concave theory like to ask, because they really suggest, strongly that the Earth doesn't curve down. Now, how the optics come into play is another story, and that's what I really like to get into. But light itself, if the if what we're seeing is different than what actually is, then it's more important to study optics separately. There's so many people out there that say, what I see, if I see it, I believe it. I have to see it to believe it. Or, you know, this is why I started this, I started a Facebook uh, album called Optical Illusions, because the eye is one of the easiest things to trick of all. Um, you can take there. I have a bunch of pictures on my Facebook that look as if that there's motion to them, but it's just a picture. Your eye creates the illusion of motion, um, which is very interesting to me because um, reality, what we call time in our reality, is really just two or more pictures uh, in a sequential order. In a single picture, you can't have motion, obviously, but you can trick the eye to perceive a single picture as having motion, which is very interesting to me. So the nature of light is a huge thing that I think they're covering up. I think they really don't want people to know the nature of our reality and how it works. They're hiding a lot of really important things that uh, that have to do with the light and how we perceive our own reality. So
Absolutely. There's a great quote in Man or Manner by Ernest Lairs, which is a book every adept should read, where it basically says if we want to discover the secrets of optics, we must do a complete restudy of the human eye. And to me, that makes sense because I don't think they're really, you know, sharing the truth with us in regards to that. We have to do our own research on how the eye actually works.
yeah, which is I mean, the things that I'm studying that, and I've looked. I'm a student of. I've been through all the different physics, all the different maths, all the different levels of all the different theories that we have for optics. Um, and I never learned some of the things I'm learning now. Like, for instance, um, the vanishing point is a very interesting thing to me. The fact that the horizon is always at eye level. No matter what altitude you go up to, you'll always see the horizon will always be right there at eye level, and it's what it reminds me of. I've been really into mirror physics lately. The way that mirrors work. I don't know if you guys have checked out anything with mirror physics, and not just mirror physics, but with holographic projection physics.
Yeah, especially you ever see that concave mirror video? Posted it up on the chat. It's amazing how that works with a concave mirror. They use those
Oh,
mirrors for skyving too, right?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The Brezhnev mirrors or whatever. Yeah, the Russian mirrors, the ones that they induce like um, they call it different states of
The
consciousness.
Kozyrev mirrors, yeah, to induce. Well, yeah, his whole thing is that if you just look into a mirror and you wrap yourself around a mirror, it can induce you into a totally different state of consciousness, and that's a very deep area of research, pretty amazing. And there's also the concave mirror, like if you just look into a concave, like you ever look into a woman's makeup mirror,
Yeah.
if you're looking at it and then you just take it away, you flip upside down at a certain
Right.
point. Like,
Yes.
what is that? That
Yeah.
totally blows me away when I first looked. I grabbed my sister's makeup mirror and I was like, "Whoa!"
Exactly. And all that. And
Oh, shit.
I don't know if you've seen the video where if you fill a water glass, if you fill a glass with water, if it's a perfectly um, cylindrical glass and you fill it with water, how it has a mirror effect. Um, and if you really look at the human eye, it is, for us, it's a concave lens of projection. for the outside, if you look at it, if you look at somebody else's eye, it's a concave, obviously, and the correlation between the funny things with mirrors, like for instance, here's a funny fact about mirrors. Your image on the surface of a mirror, from your perception, is always the same size, whether you are a few centimeters away or whether a few centimeters away from the mirror or a few kilometers away. Your image on the surface of a mirror is always exactly half of your actual size.
That blew me away. That fact. I was like, wow.
Yeah, there's a really interesting video that I like from Vsauce. I don't usually like a whole lot of Vsauce stuff because he's kind of a conventional physics guy, but he's got some interesting stuff in there. He's got a video called "Inside a Spherical Mirror," and I suggest people watching.
Mhm.
If you find the link, share it in the chat, please. I'll definitely check it out.
Below may have a lot to do with um, Walter Russell's cubic, the cube and the sphere, and about how um, he likens it to. I don't know if you've ever seen the mirror cube videos, but if there's a couple of videos out there on the internet of they take a mirror cube, a cube that's just got a whole bunch of mirrors in it, and I could link this video too, but and they put a couple of lights on all the different points, intersection points called the cathodes and the anodes, and he cuts a corner in the mirror, and you look inside of it, and I think it's Matt Presti who made it, and Matt Presti says that it's the closest physical thing that you can have in your reality to perceive the cubic wave field on how reality is built, and that got me really interested in the fact that, like I was talking about mirror physics. I don't know if you ever seen um, MC Usher's art. MC Usher's art kind of embodies this whole thing that I'm talking about. He's got the man with the globe, the mirror, and he's looking at it, and it just shows your perspective on the mirror. And we're always sitting here trying to figure out, all these different ways to measure the Earth. Flat earthers swear that the Earth is flat, and I've been up and down all the flat theories. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but the funny thing is, when I go into the flat Earth theories, they always kind of they don't go deep enough with optics and the way that, because definitely I agree that the Earth looks flat. But it's similar to, like, you could build a camera lens to make the Earth look convex, a wide angle. You can build a camera lens and change the shape of the lens to view different angles and to perceive the world as flat. You can take a telescope and flip it around, and everything gets really small and kind of oblong. And all these things are very interesting to me. And like I was talking about with the vanishing point is a really interesting thing to me. I started to notice something really peculiar about pictures, that if you take pictures, like, for instance, maybe I can screen share some of these. You can take a picture of railroad tracks, and the railroad tracks, as long as you keep the horizon at the exact middle point of the picture, the very center of the picture, it makes the railroad tracks kind of make. Can you see these railroad tracks I have right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
on screen. If the horizon is exactly at the vanishing point, right in the middle of the photo, you'll make a you'll make the Great Pyramid triangle. You'll make a golden mean triangle. This is very interesting right here. The Vitruvian Man compared to vanishing point physics. Um, there's the optical illusions fit into this so well. But if you see this picture, if you see the horizon is perfectly at eye level, like it really is in real life, and the Great Pyramid right here is the exact um, dimensions of the Great Pyramid,
Huh.
which is really interesting. Then I started to search a little bit more and found a website, a very interesting website from. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Here it is. Um, can you see this? The vanishing point, the
Oh yeah.
Giza Pyramid Complex incorporates vanishing point design. Can you see this?
Hmm.
So the vanishing point is exactly 1,000 cubits southward from theoretical axial line that passes through the Sphinx. The two circles intersect exactly 11,000 cubits northward. So if you get into this website, it's I kind of thought I discovered it in the beginning. I was like, oh man, I just had this huge revelation. I just had like a illumination. I was just sitting there like, oh my god, I need to look into all these ancient sites and how they're kind of built with this vanishing point, the vanishing point physics, which also happened to be mirror physics, which also happened to be um, optical. The Earth is convex or whether the Earth is round. Well, from your perspective, the way that you can, if you change your perspective, um, you can make a flat plane look completely spherical very easily. Um, and also, oh man, there's a really good one here with
Did
if
I
you
just
look
say
at
vagina?
oh no, that's an optical illusion. See,
I
that's a
know.
lamp, man. It's a lamp. That's
uh,
that's exactly my point. You never know what is. It's so easy to trick the eye, and I think that the great architect um, is putting it right in our face everywhere we look. Like for instance, here, check this out. Here's the Last Supper, and if you draw a line down from the pyramid center, do you see Jesus with the pyramid?
mm,
You draw lines all the way down on each side to the bottom of the picture. It's the exact same vanishing point physics that I was just explaining. And
huh.
then if you look at all the arrows, like so, Da Vinci uh, kind of had this figured out as well. Um, I got a lot of examples in here.
The
Uh
ratio is 7 to 11. I'm pretty sure, if that's the dimensions of the Great Pyramid.
huh. Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
also wanted to throw in what you were talking about, the cubic wave field. A good visual way of understanding that is in the movie Interstellar. At the end of I just watched that. At the end of the movie, he's behind this bookshelf, and he's in some kind of different dimension, but it looks exactly like Matt Presti's cubical wave.
Cubic cubic wave field. You're right. Yeah, I definitely noticed that as well. Even though, oh, it was a task to get through that movie for me because I really don't like the word time, and they had to have used the word time in that movie 700 times. I mean, but yes, I did like that, and I noticed that as well, and I like that you picked that out. That's really cool because it's definitely a very interesting thing. But yeah, so anyways, the vanishing point is I'm studying it and I'm focusing on it a lot right now. trying to figure out. I know that there's some very interesting things to learn here, um, but yeah, this has Descartes um, over here, kind of as a. I don't know if you've seen his work with the pineal gland. How he says that the pineal gland is a projector.
Seat of the soul.
The seed of the soul. Yeah, the seed of the soul. Exactly. All right. Stop.
Oh, there's a fractal image I just got there. Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think, Joe? I mean, you're a geometry guy. I haven't really shared a whole lot of these thoughts yet with you. What do you think about that?
I just wrote down that website you showed me. That looks fascinating. I'll have to look into that. But I haven't really gotten into it much, but I will now. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It always brings me back to the idea that what we're seeing is built on geometry, sacred geometry. That's why it's such an interesting study. Um, everything is related to everything else in one way or another, and most of the time you can find a geometrical connection to everything, kind of a frequency connection or musical harmonic resonance to everything. Um, it just brings us back to the idea that everything is one, just kind of divided into these different
Right.
things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea what you're doing, studying the optics and how the eye works, because that's how we perceive things. So that makes a lot of sense. You probably have to do a 180 on that too, the
Yeah.
180-degree rule for the optics.
Oh, that's just a whole nother project, man. And I already have 15 projects going. Like I was just telling Tech about some of the interesting stuff that I've found about Sirius. The star Sirius is very seriously interesting to me right now.
Oh yeah, he blew my mind so much that I basically passed out. I couldn't take it anymore.
Well, go on.
Well, we could probably do a whole show just on Sirius, but just to kind of go into it a little bit, if you want a little taste, um, I think that there's a direct relationship to Sirius and the pineal gland of our brain, as well as um, some sort of uh, some sort of projection per se. Let me just give you a few quotes here that I found really interesting when I started to try to. I went down every little rabbit hole I could find about Sirius and kind of picked out the stuff that was really pertinent to this. Um, well, we all know that Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. Uh, in Freemasonry, Sirius represents the Star of Bethlehem, so as well as in Christianity and a lot of the Abrahamic religions, it was um, the Eastern Star. Um, Obviously, it's Canis Major, and it's the dog star. Canis Major just meaning the great dog. It's where we get our words like canine. A lot of people are familiar with like satellite radio, Sirius satellite radio with the star on the dog's eye, and anyway, so the Dogon. If you've ever been familiar with, a lot of people have that are into alternative sciences have came across stuff like the spirit science. In the spirit science, they really get into some of the Dogon stuff about how the Dogon worship the star Sirius, and they know some really amazing implicate. Like, if you haven't ever looked into the Dogon and all the crazy things that they know somehow, check it out. I'm sure a lot of you already have know about it. Okay, so Albert Pike was. If you've ever looked into Freemasonry, I'm sure everybody would kind of that would ring a bell. Albert Pike was a very famous Freemason.
Yeah, if anyone wants the real scoop on Freemasonry, check out his book, Morals and Dogma.
That's what I was just about to ask what the name of that was.
Yes, sir. And I'm about to quote some stuff from Morals and Dogma that a lot of people kind of probably overlooked, as I did before I really started looking into this whole
Hmm.
other aspect. Okay, so he says the blazing star in our lodges represents Sirius, Anubis, or Mercury, the guardian and the guide of souls. Our ancient English brethren also considered it an emblem of the sun. In the old lectures, they said the blazing star or glory in the center refers us to that grand luminary in the sun, which enlightens the earth by its genial influences, dispenses blessings to mankind. He goes on to further say, it is also said in those lectures to be an emblem of prudence. The word prudentia means in its original and fullest signification for foresight, and accordingly the blazing star has been regarded as an emblem of the omniscience, or the all-seeing eye, which to the ancients was the sun. Okay, so I don't know. There a lot of people out there probably haven't seen some of the diagrams of the the Great Pyramid inside of with the all-seeing eye on top of it as a three-dimensional cubocta inside of the spherical Earth as the source, which the diagram. I guess I could screen share a diagram, but uh, it's an animation from uh, Stephen Joseph.
Our Lord.
Yeah. See if I can find it here. Um, as I'm looking for it, I'll keep going. Um, and then he goes into the star which guided the Magi is the same blazing star, the image whereof we find all initiations. To the alchemist it is the sign of the quintessence, to the magist the grand arcanum, to the Kabbalists the sacred pentagram. The study of this pentagram could not but lead the Magi to knowledge of the new name, which was about to raise itself above all names. And that I found very interesting because I've been into I don't know if how many people are out there that have been into the Kate of Gaia um, stuff with the legal name, where it's the sovereignty, and it all talks about how the legal name is really the 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 thing that keeps us all enslaved, really, because we all use a copywritten legal name from the our birth certificate is crown copyright owned. If you don't know a lot about that, I really highly suggest that. But that I found in there when he says knowledge of the new name which was about to raise itself above all names. Huge light bulb went off for me right there. And cause all creatures capable of adoration to bend the knee. So of course, if you read Babylon Has Fallen by Kate of Gaia, that part will blow your mind. But the rest of it, so he references Sirius to an all-seeing eye, the sun, actually the blazing star in the center. Okay, so now I had a reference point. I had something to look for, so I started to go look in other places here. And for those of you who haven't seen the picture that I was talking about with the all-seeing eye in the center, let me just screen share that really quickly.
That's the one that's more of like I think it's like a 23.5-degree pyramid. It's not like a regular. It's on the dollar bill, right?
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for. I always forget what exactly the dimensions
Just reading
are.
about that.
But yeah, here's just a rough kind of and I didn't really think a whole lot of this when I saw it at first, but the more and more I look into it, it's got a lot of the old esoteric stuff makes more sense this way. I'm not saying necessarily it's 100% fact that the Earth looks like this. I'm doing my best to weed through all the theories, and this keeps coming into my view and coming into my train of thought all the time. It's like there's something here that really speaks to me, and I just want to put it out there for people to make their own decision. But if you look at this, the all-seeing eye in this very center, this is a picture of the concave Earth with the celestial sphere in the middle.
Do a screen share because it didn't work yet.
Can you see it now?
Oh, yeah, now I can see.
Okay. This is, here's a picture of the concave Earth with the celestial sphere in the middle. The stars on the outside of the, or on the inside of the celestial sphere. Here's the band of the Milky Way. Okay. Now, this is a diagram from Stephen Christopher. He's a great animator. He's figured out how to make all of the concave stuff visually work inside of it. All the phenomena that we observe fit into this model, according to him. So I've been really looking into it. But okay, so from my own studies, going back to Sirius, I keep finding a correlation in Freemasonry. Okay, so then I moved on to find out that in Japanese and Chinese astrology, the dog star is known as the star of the celestial womb. In Indian tribes of the Southwest, Sirius was a dog that followed mountain sheep, who I equate that kind of, anytime I see a ram or sheep, I immediately think of Aries. And the Cherokee also say that the dog star and Antares are the guardians of souls, or the path of souls. So the Egyptians associated Sirius with Anubis and Isis. Obviously, Anubis is the dog who takes people into the underworld, god of the underworld. And I have a huge, crazy article that I'm writing about all the correlations between the Egyptian gods and Sirius. But yeah, just to make a long article kind of short, I think there's a direct relationship to. Have you ever heard? You've heard Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and I don't know if you saw my little post where the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. We're worshiping this star, the blazing star, in our nursery rhymes and in a lot of the symbolism, and I know it has a lot of significance. And I haven't figured out quite exactly what it is yet, but I have a few theories, and I think it has a lot to do with the pineal gland, and I think the pineal gland has a lot to do with the projective geometry, the seat of the soul. And I was telling Tech, I was thinking, what if Sirius is the source? I found all these references to the Father of God. I assume most people are familiar with the astrotheology stuff about how the Son of God is the sun in the sky, and the Father is the source. And then you find all these references for Lucifer being the light bringer, the one light, the source. We in New Age you worship the source, right? So I am getting close to really putting together the pieces of Sirius and the Father. Sirius, the star Sirius, has something to do. Maybe it is. See, when you look in the sky, you guys have looked at the Analema, right? The Analema stuff that I've been trying to figure out. The Analema is the path the sun makes. If you take a photograph every single day at the exact same time over a whole year, it makes a figure eight.
Hmm.
And it's really hard to describe exactly what's taking place in the sky for us to be able to see a figure eight, as opposed to, in modern science say that it's an illusion, that they don't, they have no reason, they have no understanding of what it is. Well, what if Sirius has something to do with the source of the light of the sun, and we're actually, it's the brightest star in the sky, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it, possibly, since it's further in, it's obviously dimmer, and maybe if it's in the celestial womb, this is another term that keeps popping up over and over again, is the celestial womb. And have you seen the Washington Monument has if you look at it from above, you'll see the pyramid with the Vesica Pisces,
Hmm.
and in all the Christian, and all the churches, and you'll always see Mary and Jesus both have like this direct relationship to the Vesica Pisces, the female anatomy, and so I started to figure out that you could equate this. There's a direct relationship between the Vesica Pisces with the pyramid in the middle, and obviously Scott Onslaugh's stuff meshes really well into all of that. And a lot of the geomantics, all the studies that I find, I know from Wayne Herschel, from Scott Onslaught, from from Carl Monk and Bruce Cathy. All these guys are showing us that there's a grid that connects to the stars. There's, obviously that in the Great Pyramid, if you look out one of the holes in the Great Pyramid, it's pointed right at Orion, and then you got Sirius. They were obsessed with the stars and angles. So, and Bill Donahue, he talks about the angles are angels and the angles of light that come from the stars. And Maurice Cottrell's work, where he talks about the angles actually influence, they come into the pineal gland and influence genes when you're in the womb and your mom is creating you. Whatever this period the stars, whatever degree the stars are in, that light comes in and influences your personality, traits. That it's the science of astrology. So I can feel there's something there, that there's a direct relationship, and it's almost within reach. I'm just trying to piece together the final puzzles, but I know everybody only gets so far because they're not open to other alternative models of the solar system. Mm-hmm. If you believe the solar system is one specific way, especially the one that they tell you, the heliocentric model, you'll never get past the next barrier. So there's so many people, and half the people I just mentioned are brilliant, but they didn't break through to a completely new level because they're still sort of stuck in the old models, and they're coming out with new information based on the old models.
Well, I want somebody to explain to me why the sun doesn't arc in the northern sky in the northern hemisphere in wintertime. Wild Heretics article kind of blew my mind because it just doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. If you go out and look at the sky, at the sun, it's not where it's supposed to be. So
yeah, so what Joe's explaining, there's one season in one hemisphere that the heliocentric model doesn't work.
Well, it's half of the Earth during half of the year, so it's not like it's just one particular thing. It's half of everything,
Right. Yeah. It's supposed to arc. What is it, from east to west? But you don't see the east to west arc. It's still it's not an east to west. It's an east. I don't know. We'll have to get into that on a whole different thing. But that comes next to one of the other questions, doesn't it, Tech? Isn't that in the questions? Is how can we explain half of the um, half of the phenomena that we see in the sky based on the current model? Some of the current model, if you really look at it, it's not actually what we observe.
Yeah, that's a couple of questions touch on that topic, but in specific, um, here's one that's kind of touches on that. Number 20. Isn't it strange that we never see the back of the sun, although we are moving around it, while the low and high tides happen at exactly the opposite sides of the Earth?
Yeah, that's a huge one. You know, the the high and low. So when you talk to a conventional scientist about the heliocentric model, and you ask them, how can we have two tides on opposite sides of the Earth with our
Yeah,
current model of gravity? If the moon influences the water on Earth, it the only way that that can happen, if you sit down and think about it really long, and you do all the math and the figures that they present, and you look really hard at the models, if you even build a 3D model of what they say, you can only get one tide. You can't get two. Um, which leads me to believe that either A, gravity is a push, which I'm writing a whole article just about that right now. I'm just about done with it. But push gravity, pressure makes way more sense than gravity theory. I don't even think there's such a thing as gravity necessarily. Um, the way that we describe gravity, at least, you could you can actually liken it to a push a lot easier.
yeah, and
But
that's what Tesla believed too. He thought it was an etheric pressure phenomena, and Carl Lesage, his theory of gravity, it's like from the 1800s. He also believed that too. It's actually been around for a long while.
exactly. Well, and if that's the case, there are only two models that work that I've found. I've looked and looked and looked. The only two models that work are, one is W.C. Wright, where he uses magnetism, where um, he shows a balloon. He takes a balloon as the Earth, and if you imagine that the Earth was a balloon and the water um, covered the surface of the balloon, and you had magnets all the way around, and you had a magnet over here. Wherever the magnet was in relationship to the balloon, the magnets on the Earth uh, push on opposite sides and make it. It's like pushing a balloon, obviously, and then you get tides over here and here, and the opposites. You push it. You know what I mean? So there's that model, and then there's also the concave model. Works really well with push gravity as well. So I have kind of two that I'm mowing over, but
Well, how does it work
I
in the
think
concave?
I think it's a combination of the two. So for concave, it would also be a pressure. Uh, okay, so for gravity, um, well, hold on just a second here. Give me a second. I'm gonna see if I can find this article.
Give me a second to explain gravity for us. Here, real
Um,
quick.
yeah, explain gravity, Kale.
That's all.
Just give me a second. I have it on my computer here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm doing my best to write a lot. There's a lot of things here that if you take all things into consideration, um, there's a lot of things here that start to make sense.
Mhm.
Okay, hang on just a second. I'll be right back. A second.
I wanted to talk about the square and the circle and how that relates to a lot of things. Maybe I should even wait for Caleb to get back, but
Yeah,
um,
no, please give it to us, brother.
yeah. So there's just so many coincidences with this square and a circle. So if you take a square and you put a circle inside of it, turns out that the square's area is 27.3% more than the area of the circle. Well, that 273 number is found everywhere. That's absolute zero. Um, It's the solution to squaring the circle. It's the average length of pregnancy in days. It's the amount, and here it goes back to the moon. It's the sidereal period for the moon going around the Earth. So it takes 27.3 days for the moon to circle the Earth. At the same time, the moon and Earth create the solution to squaring a circle, which is also 273. 1 over 273 per Celsius is the expansion and reduction of gas. It goes on and on. There's all these phenomena that this number keeps popping up. And you know, with Russellian Science, they talk a lot about these cubes and spheres. So in a two-dimensional idea, that is the circle and square, and you just keep seeing the same number pop up everywhere. I just find that interesting. I know Scott Onstadt talks a lot about that, and I actually added one to him because I think it's the cosmic background radiation is 2.73 Kelvin. So you just keep finding it. This is like a constant that's been overlooked, and you find it everywhere, but no one talks about it.
Have you ever seen? Have you gotten into Bruce Cathy yet?
No, not too much. I've heard the name, but I haven't really delved too much.
I'd like to get. I'd really like to get Red Pill on one of these hangouts.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant, man.
Yeah. Well, so Bruce Cathy, in one of his books, writes about the number 27 a lot, and he's really into harmonics and the Earth grid and everything. Well, he one of his harmonic numbers that pops up all the time was number 27, 27.3, and also he talks about NASA having their actual clocks. All their clocks are on a 27-hour day. He said if you go high up enough in NASA, and certain parts of the military, that they use a 27-hour day.
Huh. So that's based on the moon month.
Yeah, and well, not only that, but there's the 144 grid has certain properties of the 27 that are really super significant, and that's probably a whole nother topic.
I watched the Code, the Karl Monk Code, the other day.
Awesome! You just get through the first one?
No, well, I think there was about an hour and a half, so I'm not sure if there's another part to it. But I wrote some notes.
There's 3 parts, and I would say the most interesting of all is at the end of the third part when he starts to correlate the planet's movements, and certain things on the planets have identical, just different scale properties to, like the pyramids, all the, I mean, what did you think about the idea that, written into every single sacred geometrical structure on our planet has embedded in it a code that leads you to the next grid point, and longitude and latitude. All the longitude and latitudes are written into the map. Like, somehow they had the know-how that they could, like we use GPS apparently to figure out all of our locations, right? Mm-hmm. and on all of our amazing, triangulations, Well, these ancients had down to like, it's like less than 1/100% accuracy with geometric precision. The exact, I mean, what do you think about all that?
Oh, well, according to the mainstream, that would be all just a big coincidence. But and I don't know if he's familiar with the work of John Michel and Robin Heath. I just got done reading, I have it right here, this book, The Lost Science of Measuring the Earth.
Great book.
Which is a real good one, and they talk about the same exact things, and the megalithic yard, and all these disparate phenomena kind of converging to one idea that it's all connected, and I find that fascinating. And there's tons of evidence that shows that he might be right.
So how much stuff is different between if you compared and contrast like Karl Monk's work with John Michel? Is there anything new to be learned from Karl Monk at all, or is it all in those books?
Oh no, no. There's definitely more to be learned. I just recognized a few similarities, like in certain numbers synced up. I'm like, oh, I just read it. Makes sense. I'm trying to think. He talks about the lunation cycle and this whole. It's based on the second Pythagorean triple, which is like a triangle based on a 5, 12, 13. And it turns out if you take the perfect fifth of the 5 side of it and you draw a line across, well, that gives you the amount of full moons in a year, 12.369. And you find this number all throughout ancient architecture, and he's made a bunch of other discoveries that really synced up with this book. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's really fascinating. It seems like the ancients didn't just use number; they used ratios of number, which showed a lot more significance. Like, and again, in this book, he talks about how all our ancient measuring systems can be converted using simple ratios, like 6/5. Like Scott talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
But they're all synced together, and where was I going with that? It's kind of just fascinating the way it all works.
Well, another fascinating thing that I want you to share is, I don't know if you have the quotes handy, but you found some correlations to concave or hollow references in there, right?
Oh yeah, I found two of those quotes that really just struck me. I'm like, wow, that I would, if you didn't tell me about concave, I never would have picked up on that. I don't think. I think I have the quotes right here. If I can find it real quick.
Yeah, I don't think Tech even knows about this stuff.
So in the
No.
book, in the book I just showed, it says the classical roots of modern geography. Let's see where it gets down to. In the 6th century BC, Anaximander, a Greek, he is the guy that invented maps. So anyway, working during the 6th century BC, he is also thought to have been the first of many Greek philosophers to attempt to determine the size of the Earth. Noting that the whole sky revolved around the celestial pole, he declared that the Earth was at the center of a colossal sphere whose inside surface held the stars in place. So I read that and I'm like, oh, that hit me hard. And then, a couple pages later, I see another correlation. Let's see. Professor Hogbin, author of Mathematics for the Million, one of the best-selling popular mathematic books of all times, describes many ancient applications which relied on treating the vault of heaven as a clock face rotating around a central and fixed Earth. So he goes on and on about this, but those two things really struck me hard.
Yeah, that's a great book. I've been trying to get my hands on one ever since the first person to ever show me that book was Josh Toms. He had a copy of that book, and he's got a couple of the John Michel books that
Oh yeah.
he spoke highly of.
The other one I have here, just got. I think Josh told me to get this one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep,
That's the one. Okay. Yeah, and this is by John Michel and Alan Brown. It's called "How the World Is Made: The Story of Creation According to Sacred Geometry." And this one, I haven't even read this yet. It looks absolutely fascinating, And then I have "Taking Measure," which is Scott Onstat's book, which I'm getting into now. It's mind-blowing stuff, really.
Wow.
Yeah, it is, to say the least.
This is a good book. Quadrivium.
Oh, nice. Who's that by?
This is out of the Wooden Book authors or publishers, and there's a bunch of authors in here you probably heard of, like let's see, Jason Martino and John Martino.
Okay.
So Keith Critchlow. So, and it goes over number, geometry, music, and astronomy in that order. Why we've never heard of the quadrivium and the trivium and the 7 liberal arts is a shame, because people can't use their own logic to come to the truth without this method, really.
Oh man, it's so important to have a filter so that you have, a way to sift through garbage information compared to worthwhile information, rational or irrational information.
All the logical fallacies, you have to sift through.
Look around. We live in a logical fallacy, man.
It's true.
It's absolutely amazing what you guys. You guys are ruthless on the mind blowing.
I mean, it's funny because it's there's a lot of people out there that just think, oh man, there's some really smart people out there that have been figuring shit out. I don't need to figure anything out. No one needs to question anything. I'm not smart enough to figure out this or that. It's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take the time to figure things out for yourself, there's no one out there that's going to figure it out for you, and you have to just dive in and figure things out yourself to really understand things. You have to have metaphors you can extract metaphors for meaning, and that's the difference between real understanding and wisdom versus just knowledge that we all regurgitate that we learn at school, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been mind blowing, gentlemen. I can't handle anymore. And I'm a weirdo, just like all of you guys. I don't know about everyone else.
Yeah. We've covered. We kind of threw up a lot of information. We probably need a whole episode just to cover the gravity thing, just a whole nother talk just to cover some of the other things that we've been exploring. But we gave people a little bit of a taste of what we're working on. Hopefully, there's people out there that have some more information to add. So if there's people out there that want to get in contact with us, there's a few ways. In fact, Joe just started a new website, and you can also find Joe on Facebook, Joe Dubs, and you can also find him on Geometric Connections. And name your website, Joe?
Yeah, cosmiccreations.net, although I haven't officially launched yet. And I bought that domain name. It links back to joedubs.com. So I haven't figured out which one I'm going to push yet. But
when you're ready, let us know, and we'll send out a huge email blast and all of that, and write up an article about it. That's how we do it up in here.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great. Here's a quote by author C. Clarke that kind of sums up our discussion here. And he says, "If we have learned one thing from the history of invention and discovery, it is that in the long run, and often in the short one, the most daring prophecies seem laughably conservative." So, if we're going to talk about crazy things, you might as well, because there's no limit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Absolutely. While you guys have been talking, I actually just put up 2 articles just from this conversation. But honestly, there could be about 20 articles just from this conversation alone. All the books you pointed out. I mean, we need like a whole article just on this video with links to all the resources, and it would just be a mind bender in and of itself. I mean, this has been amazing.
I added a link to the pyramid Caleb was talking about, the 23.5 degree pyramid. So that gets into there.
Cool.
I see it. I see it. Awesome. Gentlemen, this has been amazing. I mean, and we didn't even get to the list. We got up to like number 2.
Oh man.
There's still 38 more to go.
Well,
Yeah, one of these times. See, I think we should probably do a whole episode just on that. And
Yeah.
I always just try to give people a little bit of background so that they understand what we're talking about, because I never know, how informed people are that are into this stuff. So.
Well, no one's heard about this stuff, man. But it's great that people have just met you guys, like this is the first time people are like seeing you guys straight up, you guys should be, everyone should know who you guys are and the work you're into. How many people can pursue things without fear, like really, and talk about this stuff, like, come on.
Yeah,
right.
it really took me a lot of meditation and finding myself before I got rid of the fear to just be open to anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing. It's not so much about the intelligence, but there are plenty of super intelligent people out there,
Oh yeah.
super intelligent people. But how many of them also have the emotional, not just physical courage, but especially the emotional courage to face the darkness, like because to accept that everything that you know is wrong means that anyone over the age of 20, their minds will be destroyed. And think about the kind of strength that takes.
That's why I love you guys.
Brother. Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know what I'd do without you guys. Whew. I talk to people every day who just look at me with one eye like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So it's definitely good to share. Sometimes I feel like a waterfall, like I'm standing underneath a waterfall with my mouth open. I gotta have a vent, an outlet. So it's great. It's great to share with you guys. I love it.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, you guys can and should keep going. I gotta head out because I have a meeting to go to. But man, this has been amazing. It's been like 2.5 hours
Oh
of
wow.
just. It's been it's
wow.
been that long.
Holy crap. Didn't
Yeah.
realize.
It's just like Interstellar, man. Time just flies.
Time.
When you're trying to figure out the actual structure of the universe, time just flies, doesn't it?
Oh, man.
How many guys can say they're trying to do that? You're trying to do what? You haven't
Yeah.
seen Star Trek?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'll have to give my mind a break here, too, but that was a great chat, guys.
Right
All
on.
right. I'll see you guys later. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are giants. I mean, I've learned so much from you guys. It's amazing. You just turned me on to the work of MC Escher, and I just put out an article about that. It'll be out in like 2 hours, and I have a whole list of stuff now that you bastards have added to my reading list exponentially now. Damn you! I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, welcome to join the group, man. I mean, I think Joe and I both have a stack of stuff to work through. You do what you can. You just do what you can. You don't overwhelm yourself. You take the stuff as it comes.
Right.
I'm stoked to see your articles, guys. Like, I want to see everything you guys put out, man. You guys are amazing. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's easy to put ourselves down and say, "Oh yeah, I'm sure there's other people, and there are other people doing great work." But how many people are synthesizing it all together with like a boldness and flair, and or especially are younger too, because you can't discount youth and where it can lead you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why the more the merrier. We need help. I mean, we need anybody out there that's got stuff to add and who's interested in learning more. We love to connect. So.
Absolutely. Etherforce is open source living science, and the open source part of it is pretty huge because like, I'm a programmer, right? And I'll tell you, without open source, the web would look like it did in 1995. It still look like that
Yeah.
without open source. And you can imagine like where we are in science, we're still running off a 140-year-old, combustion engine. Why? Because it's not open source. It's closed down immensely by institutions and also by greed and just by a lack of consciousness. So now that we're really dedicated to taking open source, imagine how fast we can go if guys like you are just sharing information all over the world.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, we'll see what we can do. We'll just change the world one video, article, one new friend at a time.
Absolutely. It
Right on.
works.
We're
All
going
right,
places,
gentlemen.
that's for sure.
We've gone places already. It's awesome. All right, gentlemen. Absolute pleasure. I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much, and much respect and love, man. Peace be upon all of you guys. Rock.
Ditto. Always a pleasure. We'll see you guys.
They're on.
All right.